Yujiro Hanma's face was initially inspired by actor Matt Dillon, but for the author, this look was not compatible with his cruel and fierce personality, so Itagaki, author of Baki, began to bring other inspirations to arrive at the look we know today. And one of these inspirations was Paul Stanley from the band Kiss, and to make the features that we see in the anime and manga, Itagaki was inspired by the features of a lion. Yes, all those wild features on Yujiro's face were directly inspired by lions. That's why Yujiro is often compared to a lion, as happened in the fight against Kakukeo, who felt like prey facing a lion, which was Yujiro. Baki was inspired by a real martial artist called Tara Naoyuki, including Tara also has a mole over his mouth, just like Baki, and his fighting style was also an influence for many of the signature moves we see in the anime. Yujiro was born conscious and with open eyes, and even though he was a baby, he was able to threaten and command everyone around him with a kind of aura, as if he was passing on feelings to others, of what he wanted him to do, and at that time he was already showed no pity or empathy for anyone. Even his mother was afraid if she felt dominated by that child, making her a kind of object that would only serve to provide food and help for him. Most of the scars that Baki has on his body were all made in a single fight, when Baki was 13 years old and went to train in the forest alone, and there he learns of the existence of Yasha, who is an extremely large gorilla and savage of an extremely rare species, and throughout the fight Baki is cut by its claws making deep wounds, and these wounds resulted in most of the scars he has on his body. Yujiro already harbored feelings for a woman named Diane Neal, who was a Canadian military combatant. She fought alongside Yujiro in the Vietnam War, and they almost developed a romantic relationship, but soon Yujiro discovered that she was a double agent, who was tricking him into eventually trying to kill him, so as a form of punishment, Yujiro forced her to have a child, and that child was Jack Hanma. Jack Hanma always felt a lot of hatred for Yujiro, and part of that hatred was stimulated by his mother, and at one point he was so obsessed with getting stronger faster, that Jack even destroyed his muscle fibers, since he trained without stopping even to eat, becoming anorexic due to lack of food. Jack Hanma spent much of his youth being anorexic due to the way he trained, but when he was introduced to an experimental body and muscle growth drug, he began to abuse this medicine, becoming a monster of an unnatural physique. Before meeting Yujiro, Baki's mother was a very innocent girl with a calm personality, but she completely changed after Yujiro killed her husband, and she started to become obsessed with the ogre, becoming proud, fearless and with a strong desire by blood and violence. Many attribute this sudden personality change to the trauma she suffered, but to this day this has never been confirmed by Itagaki. Biscuit Oliva was inspired by a real bodybuilder called Sergio Oliva, and an interesting thing was that Sergio Oliva was the inspiration for the creation of Demon Back, as it was looking at his back that Itagaki came to the conclusion that his muscle formation resembled a face, and decided to use it in his manga. Like Jack, Baki had a lot of difficulty reaching the latent power of his blood, but one thing that made it even more difficult is that neither of them takes pleasure in killing, and according to Yujiro, this greatly delayed the evolution of both. Currently Baki and Jack are the only two known children of Yujiro Hanma, but it is very likely that they have other siblings, as it has been said several times that Yujiro spread his seed around the world, so these people must be living like normal humans, without knowing that there is a superhuman power sleeping in them. Many people doubt whether Jack Hanma, being Yujiro's son, also has the demon back, just like Baki, and so far, Jack has not awakened this ability, because if he did, he would not hesitate to use it, since he uses it all possible methods to get stronger, but most likely he will never have the demon back, since according to Yujiro, the Hanma blood is weak in Jack. There is a never confirmed humor that Pickle has the demon back, as he does the exact same fighting pose as Yujiro, and his back muscles, although not the same, are similar to Yujiro and Baki's, so it is very likely that the Hanma family is a direct descendant of Pickle. Yujiro is 190 centimeters tall, but his power deceives the perception of the fighters, who see him as if he is much bigger than he really is. In his encounter with Sukun, Yujiro seemed to be bigger than him, but in fact he is not, and Sukun was the only one who was able to realize that he's actually not that big. Dappo Orochi is the only character who personally knew Yuichiro Hanma, with the exception of the ogre, but Dappo not only met but also had the opportunity to fight and test his skills against Yuichiro, who at that moment was not in the mood to face Dappo, so the fight did not continue. Yujiro has a hormonal dysfunction, having 10 times more testosterone than a normal human being, and this high testosterone means that he is naturally always gaining muscle mass, and thus always developing strength. Pickle is one of the 3 characters that have different skulls in the series, with eye sockets that resemble demon eyes. The other 2 characters are the samurai Musashi and Yujiro Hanma. All other characters apparently have skulls with normal eye sockets. Yujiro's speed is so great that he has the ability to act below the time of 0.5 seconds, which is the time the brain uses to send food for the body to move, being able to dodge bullets easily. So we can say that Yujiro does something similar to what Goku does when he uses his superior instinct. Hanayama had his inspiration in a Yakuza mobster that really existed, who was called Kei Hanagata, and yes, they are very similar physically. This Yakuza was very well known in his time and lived between the 30s and 60s. Yujiro has already been hit by lightning. Yes, lightning has already landed directly on top of the ogre. He could dodge if he wanted to, but he chooses not to move, and when he is hit he simply continues with his hands in his pockets, walking calmly like if nothing was happening. This scene takes place in Baki Hanma, in the father versus son fight saga, but it does not appear in the season, as it was one of the scenes cut by Netflix. But even so, this scene can be seen in animation during the opening of the saga. Although not confirmed by the author, Pickle may have been inspired by Tarzan, as Pickle does not have the appearance of a Japanese man, nor is he similar to a monkey. His facial features are much more similar to that of a European man, more specifically with the British who became known as Tarzan. Yujiro was once able to stop an earthquake with just a punch to the ground, but this scene is a little controversial, since to stop an earthquake, a force of absurd magnitudes would be required, and Yujiro's punch does not cause practically any destruction, not even in the grass of the place, making just a small hole. Even the characters who were at the place find that a little illogical. So many people think that in fact he just knew the moment that the earthquake was going to stop and punched the ground. When asked about this, Itagaki never gave a concrete answer, so the question remains, did he stop the earthquake or not? Musashi Miyamoto, also known as the legendary samurai, was a historical figure who actually existed, and is very well known in Japanese history, including he appears in other works such as Record of Ragnarok, as he is known mainly as the man who defeated Kojiro Sasaki. Although many think that Yujiro is completely invincible, he can be defeated if caught by surprise, as the time he was fighting multiple opponents at the same time, and did not pay enough attention to his surroundings, getting hit by tranquilizer darts that were fired at him. The tranquilizer used was so powerful that it could paralyze a whale, and Yujiro was unconscious for about 30 minutes. Musashi was the only character in the entire work that was not seen by Yujiro as another prey, as Yujiro constantly sees himself as a lion and all other people as his prey, but Musashi was the only one he considered as another predator, another lion. Only 3 people have been able to make Yujiro bleed during a fight. One of them was Musashi, the other 2 were Baki and Kakukeo. In fact, Hanayama also succeeded, but in this case it doesn't count, because the ogre asked Hanayama to hit him with all his strength and let himself be hit. Dappo Orochi is inspired by the real-life creator of Kyokushin Karate, Sosai Mejutatsu Oyama, and Karateka Hideo Nakamura, the founder of Karatido Kendo Kai. Dappo also has similarities to the character from Street Fighter Sagat. Both are usually linked to tigers in some way, both are bald, and both sport an eye patch over their right eye. Yujiro was the only human being shown in the work, who was born with above normal evil, never thinking about others and never being able to show kindness to anyone, and it is speculated that Yujiro suffers from a psychopathy disorder, as he fits perfectly into this aspect of mental disorder. Since he hates the concept of goodness and tends to always choose what satisfies his ego. Goki Shibukawa is a master of the Japanese fighting style Jiu-Jitsu and the art called Aiki. He was inspired by the real-life Aikido master, Gozo Shioda. Shioda was 10th dan in Aiki, being an absolute master of the style, and yes, they are very similar both physically, as their clothes and techniques used. Baki is one of the longest manga ever made, with an impressive 141 volumes and 1,227 chapters, but these numbers are constantly being updated as Baki began publication in 1991, and new chapters continue to be released to this day. So, did you like the information? Leave it in the comments. On the final screen there will be more videos about Baki, and if you like the content, subscribe to follow the new videos. Until next time my people, demonic hugs.